Right, I started off with some,
All right.
some plugs.
As I was saying before, these are more shameful plugs because I feel like people say shameless plugs, but why would you say it's shameless unless you were
Right.
kind of ashamed that you were doing it?
Yeah,
And
there's
if
some
you-
shame built in.
Yeah, right. If you were truly shameless about it, you wouldn't even know to
Yeah.
say it was shameless. It's weird. Anyway,
Yeah.
shameful plugs. section of-
plugs.
All right.
Coming up, got a show on the 7th at Oddity, Bad Eyesight. It's a band that I drum in. And then on the 21st, I think, at 1984, another Bad Eyesight show. Check those out if you can, if you're listening.
Awesome. I have a gig, but it's not really something to plug. I'm acting in a safety video for like a nursing company.
That's
it's
totally
like a paid,
something.
It's a paid gig, but like,
awesome.
and people can't come. My friend actually works for this company, and they do safety videos, instructional videos, and every once in a while he just asks us to act in them. And one of the first ones I did was sexual harassment one, and I remember I showed up there and I was supposed to I was going to be the boss who was harassing the secretary, and it was in the middle of summer. It was like almost 98 degrees out, and I was really hungover, and there wasn't air conditioning in the place we were shooting, so I was just like grossly sweating, right? And I'm supposed to chase this girl around, and it was really weird. And he edited it together, and it was really clever and funny take on it. And I remember showing it to my boss at the time, and she was like, "Wow, I love how they made you look all greasy and creepy." And I was like, yeah, that wasn't just me being greasy and creepy. Oh man.
Oh my God.
Any fun stuff?
Moving on. I guess we just start with the interview questions, right? You want to?
Just go back and forth.
Yeah, because Sean and I have kind of a history. We used to play music together, and then we didn't, and now we're doing this podcast. So you might as well start with a pilot episode with a couple interviews, me interviewing him, and vice versa. How do you want to start? You want to fire off the first?
Well, you got a question right there in front of you, so you can.
Can you give like an overarching summary of your music, your involvement in music, how you got started playing music, who you've played with, or what kind of projects you've been doing?
Yeah, sure. I actually didn't have much exposure to music when I was young. Like my parents, I think my dad only listened to like oldies, and oldies at that point were like Motown, basically. So he listened to Motown and Jimmy Buffett. Those are like the two things he listened to. I didn't go to church, and I think a lot of people forget that going to church actually exposes you to music really, really young and at a regular interval in your life. And I didn't go to church, so I didn't have that. I didn't sing at church or see sheet music. And I had 2 cassette tapes for the longest time, for years and years and years, up until like middle school. And it was Even Worse by Weird Al and Fat Albert Sings. And those are the only 2 cassettes I would listen to because that's all I had. And my older brother and sister, they were pretty mean. They were like 4 and 6 years older than me, so there was enough of a gap for them to like gatekeep stuff from me, you know, like you don't like, they wouldn't share their music, you know, and they would so I didn't really get to listen to much stuff until middle school. And then I think I started listening to I think Live, you know the band Live?
Yeah.
I think was like the first time I was like, this is amazing. And I was in 8th grade, and I had this student teacher who everybody hated. Like, you know, like everyone made fun of. He had a mustache, and at the time mustaches were not cool at all, and everyone used to make fun of his mustache and everything. Everybody hated him. And the last day of school, he brought in his acoustic guitar and played songs. Everybody loved it, you know, particularly the girls were like fawning over it. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna play guitar. I'm gonna play guitar. So I immediately was like, I'm gonna play guitar. My parents got me a guitar. I started taking lessons from this guy, Charlie Bell. I'm throwing him under the bus with this story, and I like it though, because so basically I took like 4 lessons from him, and he said, you shouldn't be playing music. You don't have any natural talent for it, and you're wasting your parents' money. This is where I learned that spite is like a great motivator sometimes. So I sat there and I taught myself as much as I possibly could. And I probably still was bad. I didn't know I was bad. And then my dad got my neighbor, Kalai King, who's actually a local artist who still plays around sometimes. He gave me lessons for a while, and a few months, and stopped. And then I started taking jazz lessons, and I started taking music in school, like music theory stuff in high school. And I remember the first day I had a sight singing in high school, where like they would give you a melody, and the teacher would play the first note, and then you'd have to sing it.
I can't believe anyone can sight read.
I took like an AP music theory thing, and part of it was they just gave you a melody and you had to sing it.
Oh shit!
Like the written out melody. So the first time I couldn't match pitch. I was so tone deaf that he would hit the first note and be like dong, and I'd be like, I mean, I can't even not hit that note now, but like, you know, I didn't know I was off pitch, and he had to like walk up to where I was and then walk me back down to the right pitch, and the whole class laughing at me.
Oh,
and the teacher was like, don't laugh at him, you know, and it was frustrating. And so I kept on learning and getting better. I reconnected with that guy, Kalai King, and he told me, and this was like years later, he's like, I thought you were hopeless as a musician, but I really needed the money. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you didn't say that, because I think two instructors telling me that would have been devastating to me.
Yeah.
So in between all that, I listened to all grunge music, because that's what grunge, I mean, Stone Temple Pilots, Nirvana, Green Day. But I really got into 9 Inch Nails, and never really got into any other industrial music, but really started getting into that really dark, atmospheric music. And then at the same time, I started getting into like Cat Stevens, and then like Pink Floyd, and concept albums started becoming a thing, where I started becoming obsessed with that, which eventually, when I got in a band called Coco Sin, we did a concept album, recorded this big concept album, and it's one of my crowning achievements is that we conceptualized it. It even had like visual aspects to it. Like we made a puppet that attached to the drummer, and we had big bat thing with wings flapping, and just the lead singer took like a giant oil drum and hooked it up with a bicycle, and had like angle grinders sitting on it they could turn on and off, and shooting sparks everywhere. It was just this mess. I did stop animation for the show, and it was just the culmination of like all these different influences together. Like it was dark and weird. One person said it sounded like circus music and 9 Inch Nails mixed together.
Yeah, that sounds sick. Like, amazingly just over the top in every aspect.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I never thought I would be the kind of person to be really into gimmicks and stuff, but for some reason we just went for it. It was one of the shows that stick out in my mind is my friend was an industrial DJ, like did industrial like techno nights DJing, and he invited us to play one of his nights when he would have a band play, and then he would spin. And I was like, well, we're not really industrial, you know? So, but I was like, all right. So we get there, and it's on the 3rd floor. I want to say it's a bar called Mako's in Philly. So we have to drag all our like props and everything up 3 flights of stairs. We had confetti cannons. That's an important part of this story. So we get up there, and the stage is really just like a stripper area with like like beds along the side and pillows and a stripper pole in the middle. And there's one plug. There's only one plug. And so we had to plug all of our stuff into it. And in the middle of the show, we blew the fuse, right? So we get down at the bottom of the stage. I played acoustic guitar with effects on it, so I was like, I'll just play acoustic guitar. And the lead singer came, and then we had a violinist, and we sat and played an acoustic set until the power came back on, and then played, and we went back through, and we had all the we had drum triggered lights going off, and it was just crazy. We had these two boxes that would go off that said Badlands, because there's a song where the lyrics are bad, and they would flash for the audience to be able to sing along. All this crazy stuff. And at the end, we launched confetti everywhere. And there's the bouncer standing out there with all the confetti coming down around him, and he's just pointing at us and going, "You're cleaning this all up." Right, so we get out and we have to sweep up the whole bar and clean it, bring all the stuff downstairs, and then all these industrial kids are coming up to us, and I thought they were going to be "Oh, the crazy show with the lights blinking and everything," but no, they were blown away that we played that acoustic set, right? They're like, "Dad, man, that's totally badass, man. You just I've never seen anything like that." And it's I realized that industrial music, you pull the plug on it, there's nothing. There's no, so the fact that there's instruments that make sound without electricity was amazing. That was the most amazing thing. And it was so funny. All the hard work put into that big show, and the thing that blew their mind was the acoustic set. And I tried to emulate that. We did a show, and at one point we started off stage, and the drummer played one of those water jugs, the big for the water, the water cooler things. And he played that as a drum, and I had my acoustic set, and we had a toy piano, and we played it off the stage. You couldn't hear us though, because there were so many people. You realize that people are sort of dead in sound. So the 5 people that were standing around us could hear us, and everyone else was like, "What? I can kind of hear what's going on." So it failed completely. Yeah. So anyway, I think the culmination for me with music was that band. Everything after that was just sort of, I guess I got known for using a loop station. So I did a lot of solo gigs with a loop station, and I kind of got stuck with that. Everyone thought of me as the guy who looped, when I saw the drummer we recorded Anyway Woman with, he immediately, "Yeah, the loop guy," I hadn't seen him in 5 years, and he's like, "Yeah, the loop guy." So that I always hated looping. It's so hard to get it right. It's stressful, and it's hard when you have more people in the band. Seriously, and it makes the drummer kind of hate you. I think part of my falling out, because the drummer that quit the band, I think part of it was frustrations with that too, and it was just, anyway.
I think that's a good segue time to Anyway Woman. We could put on Anyway Woman. It's a song that we did. So the first time when we were playing music, we played together for a few months, was it? And then I kind of had my classic meltdown, because the drummer was super creepy, and creepy. He's a creepy dude. So I'm like, no. And then things got weird, and we stopped playing for a while. But I figure for the first episode, this is a good song to start off with.
Yeah, I feel like it's the song that started us playing music together. Yeah. I feel you came to an open mic night and played it, and I was like, I like that, and then we ended up.
Yeah, we started jamming. So yeah, this is Anyway Woman.
I basically rewrote the bass line today in 5 minutes.
That's how to do it. That's how we roll.
funny. She's my anyway woman, forehead a mile wide, fingernails ragged, a little experience, somewhat abusive. Sloppy chest, rowdy lust. The mood takes you under the moon. There's no telling what you may do. She's my anyway woman, forehead a mile wide, fingernails ragged, a little experienced, somewhat abusive. She's my anyway woman, forehead a mile wide, fingernails ragged, a little experienced, somewhat abusive, somewhat abusive, and mine.
And we're back.
So that was Anyway Woman.
Yeah. I'd like for you to imagine that we just played it right now. That it wasn't something we did, a few days ago.
If you'll notice, there's a lot of mistakes. We just played it a few days ago. What can we say about it?
Well, I guess talk about the song itself, because it's got some unusual lyrics.
Yeah. So lyrically speaking, I had a friend back in the day. This was 2014-ish. She would write poetry and I would write songs about them. She was just super funny. And this was one of her songs. I recorded a big batch of them as an album, but it was just on my own and I was trying, kind of making my way through it. So I'm really glad that you are on this time around, because your bass lines are just way better than what I could cobbled together.
And I couldn't remember the bass line I originally played.
Yeah, you
So
just
I
wrote it that day.
So I just made up another bass line right there.
And I think the same was kind of the same deal for our drummer. So the guy that I'm drumming in a band called Bad Eyesight, and the guitarist / singer for that band, he started out as a drummer. He's been in projects like Feral Ponies is the one that comes to mind immediately. He did an electronic thing called Button Pusher. A lot of people know him by.
Yeah, that's how I know him. Button Pusher.
Yep. So he's a drummer as far as his first instrument goes, and we'd never practiced that song before, so he just hopped in. I'm like, here, this is the song that we want to play.
Yeah, 4 takes, right?
Yeah. This is
The first 2 were just getting the song down, and then the last 2 were...
Hey, let's do this for real.
We just did it. So, yeah. So what you hear is what we played in the room, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, here's my thing. I'm going to go off into a spiel here. I'll start somewhere where it might not make sense at first, but just kind of roll with me. Is there are people out there, audiophiles, who spend tons of money on reproducing sound on their records. So they spend a ton of money on amps and speakers and even down to the cables. And then they they even buy expensive versions of records. They're extra heavy, like 180 gram vinyl. You put that on there, and at the end of the day, it's still not the actual. It's weird to me that people do that, because it's a reproduction of something it's not the real thing. Mm-hmm. So you're dumping a lot of money into an interpretation of something, and it subjectively sounds a little different from a different stereo system. Both of them are facsimiles. So why would you dump that much money into a facsimile? To me, the real sound is when you are in a practice room with, and like if you have, you got your drum kit, it's not mic'd or anything really. You got your bass amp, your guitar amp, and then your vocals have to go through PA to be heard over them. But if everything's balanced right in that practice room, like to me, that's the sound of the band. It's not what you hear when you go out to clubs, because like even they're like miking things, and you don't have the band doesn't have a whole lot of control over the sound. It's just you're playing what you're given on, and then it's not an ideal environment for trying to balance everything perfectly with a drunken crowd and people yelling. There's all sorts of things going on. So that's kind of what I'm trying to recreate personally as far as the sound of these recordings go.
Which is like the opposite of what you were doing by yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because I was obsessed with doing, like, you track out every little thing, you get every little track right and everything. And with the band Kokosin, when we recorded the album, Brian, the lead singer, was like, no, we're going to do it live. We did re-record vocals, but we didn't do a click track. He says that click track is going to do you dirty. That's what he used to always say. It's going to do you dirty, man. So we basically put the drums behind a screen, plexiglass screen.
Oh, yeah.
And then we all wore headphones going through a headphone amp. So if you were in the room, all you would hear is really the drums and maybe Brian's vocals. And we recorded it all. And I was really, because the loops, when you use loops, they're never quite perfect and stuff. And I really didn't want to do it live. I was really looking forward to not having to worry about the loops. But no, there's something that you can't recreate what a band sounds like playing together when they're not playing together. You know? It's like, yeah. So it is kind of cool to do it this way. I feel like we should record every single song that we have ever written collectively, eventually through this podcast.
How about that?
Yeah. And then we'll get other bands. We're going to do other bands too, right?
Yeah. Hopefully we can have some, we have a couple bands that are interested. I don't want to say anything about it yet, but, it'll be great to have them here playing and then, shooting the shit with them. The world is our oyster, Sean.
What does that mean? Can we talk about what that means?
This is you. I'm gonna.